Welcome to Franchise Empires, where aspiring entrepreneurs learn exactly what it takes to become a successful franchise owner, from one location to 10 and beyond. I'm the Wolf of Franchises.
Hey everyone, it's the Wolf. Today in the show we have Cynthia May, the co-founder of Beem Light Sauna. Beem Light Sauna is an emerging franchise that was founded in May of 2020, but today has 80 territories sold, and her first franchisees are just opening up now. Even prior to this, Cynthia's journey as an entrepreneur is far from typical, but I think you'll find it an inspiring journey. Hope you enjoy.
The Wolf of Franchises is the CEO of Wolfpack Franchising, as well as a creator at Workweek Media. All opinions expressed by the Wolf and podcast guests are solely their own opinions and do not reflect the opinion of Wolfpack Franchising or Workweek. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be relied upon as a basis for investment decisions. The Wolf, Workweek, and Wolfpack Franchising may maintain positions in the franchises discussed on this podcast.
Cynthia, you've had an interesting road to where you are today, and you're fairly new to franchising, but a year in, 83 territories sold. That's something to be proud of for sure. It's a great start. Where would you say that kind of your journey to this point with Beem Light Sauna began, and how did you get into entrepreneurship in general?
Yeah, well, thank you. I've been asked that before, were you born an entrepreneur? And I have no idea if I was born that or not. I was like the kid that from the age of 4 knew that I was going to be a nurse. I was like, I am going to be a nurse. I'm going to help people. I loved helping people. And so I was that kid that it never changed. You're like, yeah, sure, you're going to be a nurse. And it didn't change until a really pivotal moment in my life, which was becoming pregnant at 16. And then all of a sudden, all your life, my plan was like, that's not going to work out right now. I needed to find a quicker way basically to support my daughter. I wasn't looking into, I wasn't thinking about what is going to wear to school the next day anymore or the next football game. It was like, or even the college I was going to go to. It was just like, how can I make money and support my daughter on the way? And so I kind of looked back at some of my skill sets and was like, what other skills do I have where I could maybe get into a trade or something like that was quicker. My daughter and I were going to be out on our own by ourselves. And so I really needed to be able to support her. And started thinking about some of the skills. And I'd always done my friend's hair for prom or trim my family's hair, which I am so sorry. I had no experience for them, mad apologies to them for messing up their hair. But and so I was like, all right, at the time I lived right outside of DC. And I called one of the top hair salons in Georgetown and said, hey, where do y'all hire from? Because it was like, if I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it to, I want to be the best at it. And so I want to go to the best school, get the best job at the best salon. And so I just called one of the top salons and they said, we hire from these 2 schools. And I was really fortunate that one of them was in Arlington, Virginia, which was close to me. And so dove into that, and that led me onto a 17-year career path in that industry. And the last 5 of those years, I co-founded a high-end hair salon and really got a lot of my entrepreneurship and leadership skills and all of that from that experience. So that's sort of, I don't know if it's born in you or it's life circumstances that sort of turn you in that direction.
Yeah, no, 100%. I know what you mean. I mean, I think there's this common, there's a reoccurring theme, which I don't necessarily believe in, but it's almost like every successful entrepreneur, their stories at age 2, I was running the lemonade stand on the street. Yeah, no. And it's like, I've met plenty of entrepreneurs who didn't do a lemonade or sell candy in high school or whatever. I don't know. There's plenty of ways to kind of find yourself in the position of starting a business.
Yeah, no, I worked in Starbucks in high school, so there was no magical selling something I created.
Yeah. So going from kind of founding that hair salon, that high-end hair salon, Beem Light Sauna is of course a different type of business.
Yeah.
when did the kind of interest to maybe transition from a salon to a different type of concept? When did that journey start?
Yeah, so I was able to grow that with my partner to $1 million a year in top line, that business, and get it to a really healthy, successful place. And was thinking that was a business maybe I'd scale, but it was very high end, and you're counting on artistic ability and artistic team members, and so scaling it and training for that level is more challenging. And I also was ready to do something new. Not that I had mastered I think I did a decent job, but I wouldn't say I just mastered all of it, but I was getting comfortable, and I was ready to do something different. And so I started looking in the health and wellness industry. That was a passion of mine, and had stumbled across infrared light therapy. And when you're looking at scaling a business or have that thought in your head, what the team looks like inside that business is huge in terms of scalability and the challenges that come with it. So I really wanted to stay in the service industry. I had a passion for that as well, but wanted to try and figure out how to take the more of the specific skill sets, whether it's like massage therapist or hairstylist, those, nail tech type thing, and take that out. So when I ran into infrared light therapy, that was a huge, that was appealing to me on many levels. And then kept diving in, looking into that. And then my oldest daughter was actually diagnosed with Lyme disease. And so through that, when she was about 13 in middle school, that led us again back to infrared light therapy. And so that's where it really, when you have a family member who's sick or a friend who's sick, that really drives your passion even more. And that was the second time it came up. So I was like, all right, now I'm going to really dive in and look at this. And that's where at least that idea started, where I started really, whiteboarding, sticky noting, pros, cons, looking into the industry, and saw huge gaps there.
Fascinating. And so, did you find, at least with your daughter, that between the Lyme disease and infrared, did that help? I've had family members actually with Lyme's as well, and it's a lot. It can be a very long kind of confusing road almost to just getting back to 100%. Like it's a very lingering type issue.
Yeah, it is.
So
yeah. It's super lingering, and it varies greatly from person. Some people find out 20 years after that they had, a tick bite when they were a kid, and then 20 years later, the symptoms, because your immune system was, suppressed or not doing its job. And so then all of a sudden you get all these crazy symptoms. So it can vary from extremely mild or no symptoms at all for years, or there's like temporary paralysis and stuff. So it's extreme, really extreme. And so we had done the traditional route, which is, okay, you have Lyme disease. Here is antibiotics, 3 to 6 months, heavy course. And because she was in middle school, happy, like healthy, vibrant, sports, going out with friends, hanging out, and then super chronically ill. And so went through that course of antibiotics, which was really hard on her system, and got a little bit better, but still was not able to go back to playing sports and all that. So, as a mom, you're not going to stop looking for solutions, because the doctors were basically like, well, that's all we can do. So we found another doctor who's an MD still, which I really appreciate and respect, but also brought a homeopathic side to it. And so she had other autoimmune patients that had success with infrared light therapy. And I knew a lot of the benefits, but not directly how they impacted somebody with an autoimmune disease. And so just having that medical backing on her end and recommending that, and then not having success with the other things. And now there's other stuff that goes into it. It's not just this magic unicorn that fixes everybody, you have to, my daughter was already eating healthier and taking supplements, and there were other things happening. And when I started to look for a place to take her consistently, because her doctor had recommended 3 to 5 times a week starting out to really get it, help with the inflammation and pain and other things associated with those symptoms. And there was nothing within a 4-hour radius of where we lived. And it was like, to do that regularly, I can't take her 4 hours. So that's sort of when that sparked that interest even more on a business side, but then obviously on the personal side as well, to have something. And there was just nothing near us. And that's where that really started and took off from.
Amazing. Yeah, it's so fascinating, kind of just the different things that can lead to a business being started.
It is.
And so when did, I know you're a co-founder, so, who did you ultimately end up get this started with? And when did that first location end up getting open?
Yeah, so kind of through all of that, and not to give all my history, but we ended up moving our family. I sold my first business to my business partner, and really started all over again. I mean, the conversation with my family was like, now I have 3 kids, a husband, so I'm not just risking, my life, it affects them as well. And it was like, so I think this is going to go really well, but how do you guys feel about living in a 2-bedroom apartment if we have to, And it's like, at my first business, I was like, if I'm going to fail or go bankrupt, I know this is a horrible, my husband's like, you're going to want to work on your talk track there. But I wanted to go bankrupt before I was 30. And then it was like, oh, now if I'm going to go bankrupt, it will be before I'm 40. So anyway, during that, dropped everything, started all over, and really was at the top of my career, and then went straight to the bottom and started over. I moved to Charlotte, North Carolina. And I, did a whole year of research, sticky notes, pros and cons, all the business things in and out all over my wall, and ended up opening my first location in May 2020, which was not, when I signed the lease, COVID was not a thing at that point. And so really funny time to open a business. So my marketing, there was really no marketing. All of a sudden I found myself, when I was supposed to be marketing and pre-launching, I was homeschooling 3 kids, which was,
Holy crap.
I was like, all right, I had one in kindergarten or first grade was my youngest at that point. And I was like, we are going to learn about marketing. I was like, oh, what are we going to do? So that was a really interesting time. So launched that with no pre-launch, because we kind of didn't know where we fit in the rules. Things were still closed down or doing curbside. And so we just basically opened our doors, and, not ideal for a new business, especially a newer concept. We were the first exclusive infrared light therapy in Charlotte, North Carolina, and really in North Carolina at that point. And so that was, an interesting time, but we opened, and I'm not kidding. I'd go out and be like, hey, come in, and infrared light. So so not the way you would do things.
Yeah.
And so just our community and customers just showed up and showed us so much love and support. And we really grew organically from that. And, I didn't really know all the rules with franchising. And so on my website that I had built, because, it's a small business, and I had put in the corner a little thing, franchising opportunities. Well, that was more my own to see if people were even interested in that. I didn't realize I was breaking some rule of franchising, that you can't just take I want to see how many I got in. So I don't even know if I'm allowed to say that, but that's sort of how it started. And right away we had people come in, they're like, oh, where are your other locations? Where, I had one member who was moving to Vegas, and she's like, do you have one in Vegas? And I was like, we do not, but hold tight, we might. And so I started looking for my second location, and I was, strong, independent woman and didn't need a partner. And then when people are asking you about New Jersey and New York and Vegas and California to open places, you're like, that was out of my area of expertise. So I felt confident I could open several in my area, but to expand to that next market and really grow where I wanted to grow, I needed a partner that had that experience. So I had an investor come in that was interested in the opportunity and throw, a large sum, at least put out there a large sum, and then said, but I'll give you that money, but I don't want to do anything in the business. And that was appealing, but it was I need somebody with the skills more than I needed money too, but to grow at that rate. But I needed somebody with experience. So I, thank you, and I'm good. I'm going to find something else. And then decided that I need to find a partner that had the experience and expertise that I didn't. I'm not really sure what I was thinking when I said that, because like you can have all these I'm going to find a partner. I don't know if you put that on Craigslist or Facebook and you're like, hey, anybody want to be a partner? I didn't have like a plan to find that partner. I just like opened my mind to being open to it. And then I'm not kidding, within like 2 weeks, I was introduced to one of my first partners, who's Roger Martin. And he owned another concept, Rockbox Fitness, and had extensive experience. Oh, yeah. Have you heard of it?
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. So
I've covered it a few times.
Oh, have you? Oh, that's awesome. So, that was an emerging brand. They had, I think 150, 60 sold, something like that. They have, I believe, 55 open. And so he and I sat down, and one of the big things for me, if I was going to have a partner, was put skin in the game and open your own, because most investors or people looking in that are like, I'm not operating. And to me, there was so much that needed to still be learned and experienced. And then as a leader and selling to franchisees, like how awesome to be able to talk from the experience. Like I own it. I put my own money in it. I do it. I've
100%.
hired, like, that's just sort of how my whole life was. It's like you start as assistant and then, you work your way up kind of thing. And then, the ins and outs of the business. So he was like, absolutely, I'm going to do that. And, this is a partner you're going to work with more than you're going to be at home. And so that connection had to happen too. And so it just kind of took off from there. And then we added one of his partners later on, which was Jeff Juden, who has extensive experience in the franchise franchise world and has a Homefront Brands platform as well. And so just having him on the team has been, talk about a phenomenal mentor that's been through it all. It's just amazing to have that. So yeah, it was pretty quick after that. I think it's been almost 2 years since we actually teamed up, and then almost a year since we started, franchising.
Yeah. And I love the philosophy of, kind of, if you're going to be a partner in the business, that you need the operational chops. Because that's definitely something, I hear it from franchisees all the time, is that, the biggest pet peeve is that they buy a franchise or they're evaluating a franchise, and the people they're talking to they don't really know. Like they have scripted answers for questions, but they don't actually, they haven't done it. They don't have the real experience to lean on. And, people can sniff that out. But even more so, it's not about like just the sales process. It is about also once they're signed and operating. That's the other thing is, franchisees really get frustrated with their support when it's people who have been hired and, maybe there's less people in the organization who have actually, gotten their hands dirty on the business. So, I think that's spot on, with just the way you guys have structured it. So, do you mind, so if I walked into, let's just say the one that you started, Beem Light Sauna, what could I do for myself? Is it like, am I walking into a hot sauna? Sweating or?
Yep. So when you walk in, I kind of brought that, when I started looking and I found a couple concepts after really digging, nothing near us that, might have had several different modalities, but had infrared as well. And just nothing that was appealing to me as a business, and made it really easy for the consumer to be in and out. And for like my daughter, we need a space she could go 3 to 5 times a week and be in and out of. And so when you walk in, you have this elevated experience. It's really clean, bright light. It's not kind of like your dark water fountain, spa type thing. It's completely opposite.
Yeah.
It's really clean and bright and minimalistic. So everything that we put in there was carefully thought out. And so you're greeted by our wellness sales associate, which is essentially our front desk. And then you're taken to Lumi, who we call Lumi, who's our wellness, I would say wellness assistant, really. So it's an AI-based system. So when you go over and she asks you a series of questions to figure out why you're there and walk you through infrared light therapy and the, just the benefits and the science behind it. Because for a lot of people, this is new and they've done traditional saunas, but they haven't done infrared. And so comparing those
Yes.
two, they're very different. Regular traditional saunas are 170 to 200 degrees or even above, and usually last 5 to 10 minutes. And a lot of people don't love that because it's, it can be, you can have this feeling of almost claustrophobic. It's steamy. It's really hot. Sometimes it's hard to breathe, and they have huge benefits as well. But a lot of times people aren't able to stay in long enough to get those benefits. Whereas infrared is between more like 130 and 160. And so you're in there for 30 to 40 minutes, super comfortable.
Yeah.
You're not enduring it, you're enjoying it, and you can watch Netflix, you can read a book, you can meditate. We have some people who take business calls in there. So really you get to personalize it and make it your own
No
experience.
way.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So,
So you can like bring your phone in.
oh yeah. I mean, we,
because like if I did that in a real sauna, like that would be.
oh yeah, you couldn't do it. Yeah, that would definitely wouldn't work out well for you. No, these are, I hate saying dry saunas, but they don't dry out your skin. They're not like, you're not super dehydrated when you come out of them or anything, but they're not a steam sauna. And so, yes, you can take electronics in there. I think the people who tend to enjoy it the most are the ones who are able to unplug. But, if that's like, I need a multitask sometimes. So if that's what you're going for, that is great. You're just getting benefits of both. You get your work done and you get some health benefits. So just really curating that elevated customer experience. And then Lumi was added. Actually, it was something, once I franchised, it's like, if you could do this from day one, what would you do over? And training was one of them. And so the consistency that Lumi brings, just having the ability to, scale and have that consistent message delivered, and then be able to also intake people, customers' information as well. It cut about 4 weeks off our training for our wellness sales associates. So they still have to learn about infrared light therapy, but not be as deep, with the knowledge, because we do have Lumi and she's able to educate, our customer in that way. So that's one of the things that we added when when you franchise, it's like, all right, what would you do? And so I did it. And then it's like, all right, this is what we would do. So, yeah.
Yeah. No, that's amazing. And it sounds like, right. So, there's certainly more benefits than just your traditional sauna, right?
Yeah.
Where it's potentially, because this category is definitely starting to pick up steam and grow within franchising, right?
Yeah.
Where there are wellness concepts popping up, and it's for a reason. It's that there's just seems to be more and more evidence that, like, the red light therapy. Is it health benefit? I know I'm look, I'm not the best person to really. I'm not the core customer. It sounds like I like saunas, but I'm genuinely not like the core customer. I don't think.
I mean, we have, there's huge benefits, and I got lost off your question, so I apologize. We also have red light. So infrared is the invisible part of the light spectrum. So it's felt as heat, but not seen. And then the red light is right next to near infrared on the light spectrum. And it's that first light that's visible. And so red light's really, really taken off. And so we have a mixture of infrared saunas and then red light therapies. And so we're staying and committed to staying in the light modalities. And so not that we won't expand on that, but we're not going into a lot of other modalities. We want to, know one thing really well and serve that to the, just with our education and really honing in on that one thing. And so red light is huge. So we'll have people that come in and do a 40-minute session in the infrared and then go over to red light. And that's like 10, 15 minutes in red light. And so they're getting that full scope. But yeah, there's huge benefits. So everything from like our top 3, that's what's awesome about Lumi too, is she collects that data. And so we can really see what our customers are coming in for. And a lot of times they're coming in for one issue and then find out that, like, oh, wow, I got better skin. I had eczema. I wasn't even coming in from that. My eczema cleared up. But our top one is weight loss, and then detox, and actually mental health. And so we have these 6 core benefits, basically, that people say, when they're on Lumi, these are the top reasons that I'm here. And so they get to go through this whole path finding and discovering, their health and what Lumi recommends, how many times a week they come in. But those are the top three. And I will say, like, with mental health, it's not usually what somebody will come in and tell you, but they feel comfortable on the Lumi screen. You know, she's a sweet British woman and or an English accent. And, you know, there's just something appealing about somebody with an accent. You feel comfortable, but they will, you know, say, yeah, I'm here for, you know, depression or whatever it is. And I think just through COVID, we saw a lot more awareness of mental health and people, you know, being isolated for so long. And so that's really been higher on the list than I thought it would. But what's cool about a 40-minute infrared light session is you can burn up to 600 calories, even if you're just sitting there. And so it's a great cardiovascular, you know, you're not gonna chisel out your abs that way, but, you know, adding that extra calorie burn is awesome, but it's really great for cardiovascular conditioning and people also who, you know, are either injured and not able to work out or for some other reason not able to work out. It's one of the only ways to get a cardiovascular, you know, get that your heart moving and working besides working out.
Sure. No, I mean, I think there's clearly benefits. It's just, it is that newness of the category, but there's obviously, right, I mean, there's a demand for it because I haven't seen a franchise that is struggling with that aspect. And like, I know you have limitations on what you can say, but you know, the numbers in like your recent 2023 FDD are very impressive. You know, like very high margin, even after royalties, you know, and for folks listening, it's around 35%. So, you know, that's over around, you know, the two locations show close to $500,000 in sales, but 35% margins, it means you're bringing home still a good amount. So yeah. Can you kind of give an idea of like, it's a membership model I can see.
It is.
So
is
it like, I've noticed a lot of the wellness franchises, they're almost pricing generally around the same kind of range that like a boutique fitness, like an Orange Theory or an F45 would charge. So you kind of in that, like, I don't know. I mean, I went to Orange Theory when I lived in Manhattan, so that's probably the highest end, but it was close to like $190 to $200 a month. But yeah, how does membership pricing work?
Yeah, so we are membership based. We do drop-ins as well and packages, and then we have other awesome retail that can be added on. And so we're usually coming close to doubling our sales in other products, whether it's the drop-ins or the packages. And so we have ranges from, you know, 99 up to in the 200s. And then also if you can purchase a year out and get it a lot less, or you can just drop in by packages. So we are, I would say, equivalent to like a Pure Barre in terms of pricing. And so there's different options for each person, depending on, you know, what their budget is, and then how often they're trying to come in. And you'll find a lot of people that will come in with autoimmune issues and have had no luck with other things. You know, they are willing to really pour in at that point because it's a lot in terms of what they'll spend, because it's cheaper than, you know, medications and all these other routes. And so if it helps them live a better life on a daily, they will, you know, that's a different budget. That's a different category. And it really is.
Yeah.
It's self-care, but it's really turning more into essential care. Like for my daughter with Lyme, that's not self-care. That's really more essential for her and helping her. You know, she's in college now and able to play sports and get back to normal life. And so, you know, you really can't put a price tag on what that does. So.
Absolutely. And so, you know, from the owner's perspective, as you've talked about the concept, there's kind of someone, I forget, you had a name, but essentially someone like at the front desk.
Yeah, a wellness sales associate. Yep.
Yes. And then you have the British AI assistant, and
she's our wellness.
Is it the rest?
Sales associate. Well, wellness, health wellness assistant. So yeah.
Sure. Okay. I'll get the lingo. Well, once is that sort of it from the labor side on like a operating perspective where you need one person at the front desk, but then it's kind of just checking in members who are coming in, I don't know, maybe for appointments or maybe not, just drop-ins, but then you just have like how many saunas are behind the hood, so to speak.
Yeah, so mine is the smallest. It's a first, and again, you do it once and then you perfect it after that. So mine is 6. That would be we won't do any that size. The minimum we would do would be 7 at the very minimum rooms. My business partner's is about 20 minutes from me, and he has 9, which seems to be sort of our sweet spot, that 8 to 10 range. And so the staffing model is super appealing. It's something that on a business side I was looking for. It just it can be GM operated. So, you know, for me, I acted as a GM for the first 6 to 8 months, and then eventually got a GM, and so she runs it. So we have GM, so that could either be franchisee or you know, an actual GM, and then an AGM, assistant manager, basically, and that's optional. But we found that model works the best to have a GM and an AGM if you are planning to have it more GM operated. And then we have the wellness sales associate, which is your front desk, and a sauna attendant who is you know, really essential into getting those rooms turned over and clean. And so that's it. It's a simple model. You know, we have anything from 5 to 10 employees, depending on, and it could be a little bit more. It just depends on part-time, full-time, and that, but it's really just the GM, AGM, wellness sales associate, and sauna attendant. So. Yeah.
I mean, I love the simplicity of the model, and I imagine, right, it can probably fit in like most kind of strip mall, like shopping center type concepts.
Yeah, so we like to go in Class A retail if possible, and plant ourselves close to boutique fitness if you know, if possible. I'm near a juice place, and I happen to have a Pure Bar in my
perfect,
place,
yeah.
so. You know, it's cool because you can market with those and do business to business, and you're not a competition to them, but they really fit. So we literally have people that go to a Pure Bar class and then stop by us after, and then they'll get their juice. And so I'm in a really ideal setup, but you know, we're looking for Class A retail centers and, you know, like-minded businesses nearby. And that seems to do really, really well.
Definitely. I could totally see that, and it actually reminds me of Orange Theory, and when they were kind of like one of the first boutique fitness, but they basically followed Whole Foods was part of their strategy. Was just trying to co-locate near Whole Foods, and
that's perfect for us. We find that same thing.
Exactly. So
now we can just pop up by an Orange Theory because they're all over.
No, for sure. And you've been franchising for a year, and already have, you know, 83 locations sold, and a couple open, or one open, and then one franchisee open, that is, and then another one opening in May of 2023. So we're recording this at the beginning of April. So that's a pretty amazing start. You know, a lot of franchisors would kill for that start if they could kind of do a deal before they start, because you never know what's going to happen, right?
Yeah, you don't.
What's been your take? You know, you're newer to franchising. It sounds like, though, you kind of built for that by bringing in partners who knew that world. So just what's been the experience like, you know, trying to go through that sales cycle, and like, have you targeted franchise owners of other brands, or is it a lot of first-time owners? You know, what's kind of been the journey like so far from the franchising side? Yeah,
so it's a huge learning curve. People said, you know, how did you decide between franchising and corporate? And I really looked into both of them, and I am still learning every single day, which I love, but it is a little bit like drinking from a fire hose in terms of franchising. Like, you know, knowing the FDD and what goes in it and why is, I mean, that's its own set of learning. And what I really loved about the franchise model is it staying corporate for our business now, you know, to each its own, and there's no, you know, wrong way or right way. It's what you choose, but was giving the ability for others to that maybe didn't even, you know, they might be at crossroads in their career, but being able to walk in and like, hey, I can do this. And so, taking someone who maybe is a lawyer, real estate, doctor, hairstyles, whatever it is, and walking in the business and being like, wait, I could do this and change my career and whether it's impact the community while growing wealth or diversify their portfolio, there's a wide range of people and why they're getting into it. And so tapping into that on the franchise side was really appealing to me. But having partners that had been through it and made some of the costly mistakes that they could share is huge in having the growth of ours. You need to have, strong unit economics and make sure that you have the business locked down, your processes and systems. We have an online learning management system and really have those unlocked so that you're able to support your franchisee the way that they need. I mean, we don't exist without them. So everything that we do is to help them be successful and ease some of, the burden of opening a single business by yourself, just having that really small business expertise, but the ability to have a kind of a bigger business behind you. I mean, we're not like crazy big. I think there's, about 22 people in our home office. So it's not like we're some crazy huge corporate, but for me, even having a marketing team, that's like,
no, it's fantastic.
Super awesome. So it's a huge learning curve, but it's awesome. You're going to meet so many cool people, and we are, we're picky about who we bring in, and we want them to be picky about us. This is not a short term, like this is like the longest member. They just paid the most for a membership, and you're in a long-term relationship,
Yeah.
And so you need to have the right people. And so it goes both ways. So, early on saying no to someone or this isn't the right fit is a really interesting, it was the right thing, but it's like, what am I doing?
Yeah, it's, I know what you mean. It's tough because you're like, there's pros and cons, but ultimately I think long-term, right? Like, it's the right philosophy, but obviously early on, it's like, it would show proof of concept, like to a degree. It's like someone is willing to buy this franchise, even though we're emerging. So it helps, like being able to, tell that narrative. But yeah, if it's not the right fit, then it could bite you down the road. So I think the long-term approach is definitely the best. And that's a funny way to phrase it. Like the franchisees are just paying for the most expensive membership to the club.
What we preach in the studio and how we want our team in the studio to treat the customers that come in is the same rules that we live by at home office. And not even rules, just, the culture and the values that you live by. And it really is your longest member. And if you, stack value and treat them with kindness and respect, and that'll take you a long way. Now I know I'm early in it, but just the relationships that I've already formed through these franchisees is just phenomenal. It's awesome experience.
That's great to hear. And I want to bring it back to the beginning a bit, back to when you were 16, 17, and just kind of, that's a lot to deal with. I could barely get my homework done back then. How has that, I guess, just almost more as like an individual, like just as a human, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and to where you've gotten to today, I mean, was that like a massive, just kind of, oh shit moment that you've obviously come out on the other side? Yeah. But like, you've obviously come out. I mean, you have 3 kids, a partner, you're co-founding a franchise that is so far off to a very successful start by all the metrics imaginable. Is there some learning that you took from just that whole life experience that has helped you as a leader, as an entrepreneur? Like, I feel like maybe, I don't want to speak for you, but maybe you're probably more risk tolerant. I don't even know. I don't know. Like, you can handle more shit than the average person, probably.
It definitely has an impact, a huge impact. I think the first is just like being able to pivot really quick. Your timer starts right away when you're pregnant, and like you have a countdown, a solid countdown to getting your life together and changing your thought process. And so there wasn't really a lot of time to to be like, oh man, it was like, you got to shift and pivot. And, I didn't want my choices to reflect onto my daughter and her have a different experience growing up because of the choices that I made. So I had to pivot really quickly. And then it's kind of funny when you are a teen mom and you're pregnant, all of a sudden, you're 16, 17, and there's like goals and like get these grades and go to this college and do this. And then you become pregnant and the standards are really low all of a sudden. Like the expectation for you is, oh, hopefully she gets out of high school. And then you're like, that's different. Like nobody cares that, so I kind of flew under the radar at that point. But, all of a sudden, all of your friends that you had aren't around anymore because you can't go out and party with them. And so it can be a really lonely time. And I definitely shifted to just kind of depend on myself, and the inspiration had to come from me, and learned really quickly that I was going to have to be the person to turn this around and change that. And those are hugely impactful in being able to just pivot, also having your whole life shifted in a moment, and having to regroup and get it together and get kind of scrappy and tenacity and go through those ups and downs. But you have this child now looking at you like, you're trying to pave the way for them, and not show that you were a 17-year-old mom that, kind of took a different path in life. But I'm really grateful for that, and where that took me, and the lessons that it taught me. And I was definitely driven sort of by the doubters. It was like, oh, okay, so you just think I'm going to graduate high school. Like, I don't know if that's a healthy thing to be driven by, but man, that'll fuel you hugely. It's like, all right, cool. So that definitely was some of my drive, was just, showing people that I'm going to do a lot more than just graduate from high school. And it's going to be very different than, your traditional route of college and all that. But that's been hugely impactful. And you just, I guess, are not surprised by, in business, things are thrown at you. And, COVID, that was like not my first business. I had gone through, some harder economic times and gotten through that. But man, I've nothing like COVID. I don't know. You just kind of went with it. And so in a sense, it prepared you. Like, it was like, yep, we just keep going because that's the only thing we can do. So let's pivot and do the best we can with that. So yeah, but it was hugely impactful. And
yeah. I mean, I can. There's a good saying by someone I follow on Twitter that he kind of came up with, which is chips on shoulder leads to chips in pockets, meaning just like he's this like venture capital guy, but his name's Josh Wolf. But his whole philosophy is he just loves investing in and betting on entrepreneurs who, for some reason, kind of like you, just have something that is fueling you. And he just has seen it time and time again that those end up being the most successful people, because that motivation is just so powerful. But I have not obviously different motivations, but I mean, I've been driven by, things like, that have happened in the past, and you always want to prove the people who didn't believe in you wrong.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So it's definitely a powerful motivator, but it is really awesome to just hear your story and see where, what you've already done and what you're on to. And I think I'm sure a lot of listeners would agree that, it's an awesome story that we hope to kind of watch and see become even more successful as we go on.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Everybody has a story and a journey, and, don't let that deter you or derail you from where you're going. Your journey can, become it's a part of where you end up. And so it can let that fuel you and not take you down. There's a lot of opportunities in having the tenacity, and, it's like, oh, wow, you had an instant success, but really I've been working on it for 20 years. I've been building my leadership skills and looking at the market and seeing inefficiencies. And so it didn't happen overnight. We've had some really great success, but if you look back at my business partners and my life, it was not an overnight success in that kind of way. So
for sure. Absolutely. Well, look, this has been a lot of fun to have you on. Where can folks who kind of want to dig deeper and learn more about you and your brand, is there any good spot online for them to follow along?
Yeah, absolutely. You can go to our website, which is just Beem Light Sauna, and then follow us also on Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn at Beem Light Sauna as well. And then we have individual pages from there. But yeah, we'd love to have, people that want to learn more reach out to us. And I just really appreciate your time. And you have more knowledge and experience, way more than I do. So I really appreciate, getting this opportunity to talk with you.
No, definitely, Cynthia. It was fun to have you on. And folks will have the franchise website and some of those social handles in the show notes. So if you want to click through, you can follow Beem Light Sauna. And Cynthia, thanks again. And I'm sure maybe in a year or two, we'll have you back on for when you have hundreds of locations open.
I love that.
We could do a refresher episode.
I'd love that. Well, thank you so much.
Okay. Awesome. All right. We'll talk soon.
Take care.
Thanks for listening to Franchise Empires. We're coming to you soon with actionable insights to take the next step on your franchise journey. So make sure to subscribe on Apple, Spotify, Google, or wherever you listen.